I'm Daniel Reyes, 31. And the last time I walked into a ballroom, I left my father holding a box that nearly ended his career. Not because I wanted revenge, but because I was done being the silence he filled with stories that erased me. Let's begin. I didn't plan to go. Not really. I'd read the message in the group chat and stared at it long enough to memorize the RSVP code and the champagne emoji Leia used like punctuation. Victor's promotion celebration, family only. Downtown hotel. Black tie. Congrat dollar registry here. That last line made me blink. A registry. For a man getting a six-figure raise and a corner office. I didn't say anything. I never do. I just closed the app and went back to budgeting Q1 expenses for a product launch I wasn't even passionate about anymore. Then my sister called. "You're coming, right?" Nina asked, like we were planning a casual brunch. Not a public coronation for a man who once told me, "Vision is what makes leaders. Your detail." I said, I wasn't invited. She exhaled too loud. "You were. It's in the group chat." I paused. "So was the link to the blender he wants." "Please, Danny." Her voice cracked. "Just be there. For me." So I went. Charcoal suit. One good tie. Wrinkled from the last wedding I got guilted into attending and never unpacked from. I ironed it on a towel. Showed up at the hotel just as valet laughed at my car like it was part of the entertainment. The ballroom looked like it had been rented from a royal. Gold chairs. Ice sculptures. A slideshow looping behind the band like we were at a TED Talk about greatness. I sat near the exit. I always do. Easier to leave when disappointment shows up wearing your father's smile. The speech started the way they always do, jokes, charm, anecdotes polished until they could pass as truth. Then came the line. "I owe it all to my daughter," Dad said, voice booming. "She's the reason I keep going." My son, he never quite had what it takes. People laughed. People clapped. My heart didn't break. It just folded in on itself, like paper with too many creases. Then Leia spotted me. "Security," she said loud enough for the band to pause. "Remove this man." I stood before they reached me. Picked up the gift I brought, small, neatly wrapped, slightly imperfect like everything I do. Walked down the aisle as if I belonged there. As if his voice hadn't been the background noise to every moment I spent building a life that didn't matter to him. I handed him the box. "From your biggest disappointment," I said. And I walked out, not slow, not fast. Just enough to let the silence catch up behind me like a storm everyone saw coming. Inside the box was a watch and a page. But we'll get to that. The thing about being your family's emergency contact is that you forget what peace sounds like. By 19, I was the triage unit for every crisis Victor couldn't charm his way out of. When his business almost landed, an angel investor but rent was due, I wired half my meal plan. When his second marriage began, I co-signed a balance transfer because blending a family means blending debt. He told me I was the logical one. That was his nickname for me. Never son. Never buddy. Just the logical one. Like I was a whiteboard that could walk. By 23, I had a spreadsheet for everything he owed me. Rent coverage. Utility top-ups. Tires. Tuition. More tuition. A suit for Leia's brother's wedding. Braces for Nina. A hotel charge in Cabo I didn't want to think about. I logged it all like an accountant for a client who never paid on time. The file was color-coded, green for loans, yellow for temporary help, red for never coming back. And I did it quietly. Because in our house, loud meant weak. Dad was the kind of man who said, "I love you," by sending a thumbs-up emoji on your birthday and calling you champ when he needed something. He could make anyone believe in anything for 15 minutes. That was his gift. Leia, his second wife, weaponized sparkle. She joined the family chat and immediately posted a list of Nina's enrichment needs. Like I was a foundation and she was writing a grant request. She called me sweetheart when she wanted something and darling when she didn't. I kept paying. Kept smiling. When Nina needed a new laptop, I clicked buy now. When the family car broke down, I met the tow truck. When Dad's card got accidentally flagged, I sent $1,200 because it was faster than arguing. My mom remarried and moved away when I was 20. We kept in touch, light and brief. She'd send me fruit baskets when I hit work milestones. "I'm proud of you," she said once. "But I worry you mistake endurance for loyalty." I said, "It's fine." It wasn't. At 28, I tried to refinance my student loans. Denied. Utilization too high. Joint account. "What joint account?" I asked. The bank read me the last 4 digits. I knew them. It was the balance transfer from 7 years ago, the one Dad had said he closed. "Could you read the last few charges?" I asked. The list hurt. Jewelry. Resort fees. A steakhouse. When I confronted him, he said, "Paperwork glitch." When I pushed, he said, "You always make storms out of sprinkles." I paid the balance. I closed the account. And that night, I opened a new tab in the spreadsheet. Boundaries. I stared at it for an hour. Then closed the file without typing a word. The family chat lit up 2 days later. Nina's graduation trip. Victor's big moment. Leia wrote, "Let's celebrate!" with fireworks and a champagne bottle. And under that, the line that did it. Dress code, elevated. Not, "Daniel, we'd love to see you." Just a post, like I was a guest in a life I helped finance. I almost stayed home. But then Nina called. "Please show up. For me." So I did. And then my father stood on a stage, lit like a messiah, and said, "My son never had what it takes." That was the moment I remembered what silence tastes like. It tastes like your own name spoken by a man who spent a decade erasing it. So I gave him a box. And I walked away. We haven't even gotten to what was in the envelope yet. The box hit like a flare. But the envelope? That was the thunderclap that followed. Let me rewind. The watch inside the box was my grandfather's, my dad's dad. A quiet man who fixed radios and saved receipts. He wore that watch to every job interview, every wedding, every hospital visit. When I was 8, he let me wear it once to church. It slid all the way up my arm. I thought it made me look important. At 22, when Dad hit a rough patch, he pawned it. Told me it was just for the weekend. It took me 6 years to track it down. 3 addresses, 1 sketchy collector, and a ridiculous eBay bid at 2 a.m. It cost me more than I care to admit. But I wanted it back, not for Dad. For closure. I wrapped it in plain paper, like a benediction. Inside the box with it, a single typed page. No venom. Just numbers. I printed 1 tab from my spreadsheet. Dates, categories, totals. All the help I'd given. The balance at the bottom read, $84,216. No repayment due. This is my last gift. It wasn't revenge. It was clarity. A handoff of truth he couldn't interrupt. And the envelope? That was different. That was power. See, a few months before the party, Dad sent me a forwarded email by accident. It was to a client. He was bragging about family-run support on a major system rollout, claiming Nina had led the data integration. The email even had her name on the attached deck. Funny thing, I built that deck. Wrote every slide. Did the Q&A prep. Sat in as a silent consultant, because Dad said clients liked a neat story, father-daughter success. He never credited me. Not even in private. I started saving things after that. Emails. Slack messages. Call summaries where I was the brain, and she was the name. Leia even sent one with the subject line, "Make it look like Nina did it." I kept it all. Not because I planned to use it, but because I needed to know I wasn't crazy. I printed the most damning pieces and sealed them in an envelope. Addressed to the board of directors. That envelope sat in my drawer for months like a fire extinguisher I hoped never to break open. But when I stood in that ballroom and heard, "Never had what it takes," something shifted. I didn't hand it to him. Not in front of the crowd. I placed it quietly on a table near the stage, beside the shrimp cocktails and self-congratulation. As I walked out, the mic picked up my name. "Daniel," my father said, a little too warm, a little too late. I didn't turn around. Later, I heard what happened. He opened the box. Saw the watch. Unfolded the page. And went still. Leia leaned in, said something sharp. He tried to smile. He always does when cornered. But then someone asked, "What's the letter mean?" And Nina, sweet Nina, standing close enough to see the number at the bottom, whispered, "What's in the envelope?" Dad said, "Nothing." But his hand shook. He knew. I hadn't mailed it. But now, he lived with the knowledge that I could. At any time. The calls started that night. First a voicemail from Dad. Tight, breathy, forced calm. "Daniel, come on, son! What was that? You know how this works, public events optics. Call me. Let's talk it through." I didn't answer. Then Leia texted. Paragraphs. "You embarrass your father. You hurt your sister. Do you even understand the damage you've caused?" No mention of the watch. Or the numbers. Just control dressed up like concern. Nina didn't say anything that night. But 2 days later, she sent a one-line text. "I didn't know. I'm so sorry." I replied. "You don't need to apologize. You need to decide what story you want to live inside." A week passed. The company where Dad had just been crowned executive VP had one golden rule: we handle problems internally. Which meant any whiff of scandal got quietly absorbed, explained away, or, worst case, pivoted into a redemption arc. That envelope on the table? It was a grenade with a pin barely in. I didn't pull it. But someone did. Not me. Not yet. I got an anonymous email from a corporate address 3 weeks after the party. Subject line: verification request. Attached were scanned copies of the materials I'd left behind. Body of the email: "These documents recently surfaced. Are you the author?" No signature. No threat. Just that. I didn't reply. I forwarded it to my personal lawyer with one line. So it begins. 2 days later, a director I used to contract with at another firm messaged me on LinkedIn. "Hey. Just checking in. Heard something weird your dad. You okay?" That's when I realized rumors were dripping like a slow leak. Not because I'd shouted. But because silence after exposure is louder than denial. Dad called again. This time, angry. "I trusted you. I gave you a seat at the table." I didn't respond. Because I hadn't had a seat. I'd been the table. The support beam. The invisible load-bearing detail. When that crumbled, suddenly everyone wanted to know who'd built what. Nina called a few days later. "Dad's freaking out," she said quietly. "He's calling HR daily. He said someone's out to get him." "Did you read the letter?" I asked. "I did." Her voice cracked. "I didn't know it was all you. Now you do." Silence. Then, "What should I do?" I paused. "What do you want to do?" "I want to work. Honestly. I don't want to be a mascot in his redemption tour." "Then stop smiling for the camera," I said, "and start building your own slides." She hung up without saying goodbye. I didn't mind. Sometimes the first step out of a shadow is the hardest. Meanwhile, my inbox filled with friendly requests. From distant cousins, former colleagues of Dad's, even a board assistant. Just doing background checks. They all had the same subtext: "Help us bury this quietly." But here's the thing, I hadn't leaked the envelope. I had just left the truth sitting still in a room full of liars. It was someone else, maybe from the catering staff, maybe an employee, maybe a guest with a conscience, who picked it up and thought, "This deserves oxygen." That's the problem with truth. Once it breathes, it learns how to run. You don't need to burn bridges when the truth drops dynamite. A week after the envelope made its quiet debut into the company bloodstream, I got the email. "Daniel Reyes, requested interview, internal affairs." No subject line. Just a time, a date, and a Zoom link hosted by a consultant from a firm whose website looked like it specialized in plausible deniability. I didn't panic. I also didn't smile. I joined the meeting from my kitchen table, camera on, shirt ironed, mug off screen. "Mr. Reyes?" The consultant began, all flat vowels and legal polish. "This is a voluntary interview regarding recent concerns raised about executive activity within Vereker Systems. Are you comfortable proceeding?" "Yes," I said. "But I record all meetings involving legal implications. Just FYI." She blinked. Then nodded. "Understood." They asked if I authored the documents. I said yes. They asked if I had worked in any capacity for the company under my father's purview. "No," I said. "I worked around him. Not for him." Unpaid. At his request. They asked why I hadn't reported the issues sooner. I was too busy fixing them. I said. That's what disappointment children do. We patch leaks and hope no one notices we're underwater. The consultant raised an eyebrow but didn't argue. They asked if I'd shared the letter with anyone else. I didn't hesitate. No. But apparently someone in the room had a conscience. Then came the final question. Are you seeking damages? I almost laughed. Almost. No, I said. I'm not interested in money. I'm interested in accountability. But if that's too expensive, I'm also fine with silence. The real kind. The kind where you stop letting him speak on behalf of people he's crushed. The meeting ended. I logged off and sat in the quiet like it was a reward. Later that night, Nina called. Her voice was steadier now. HR asked for my version of the projects. She said. I told the truth. That you weren't the lead? That I did parts. But Daniel handled all the core systems work. Did they believe you? They asked for proof. I sent your decks. The original ones with your name in the metadata. I didn't speak. She added. I deleted the versions Dad gave me. I don't want to build a future with someone else's stolen bricks. I swallowed. That's a good start. I'm scared. She whispered. He called me tonight and said I was disloyal. I sighed. Nah. You're not disloyal. You're done being a prop. Pause. Then she said something that hit harder than anything Dad had thrown at me. Thank you for breaking the spell. 2 days later, Dad was placed on administrative leave to support a transparent review. The internal memo said it was to allow for reflection and healing. Translation: someone found the fire, and they need to investigate who lit the match. Leia posted a vague family values rant on her socials, which made the rounds. One cousin sent it to me with the caption, "Your stepmom just invented motivational slander." I didn't respond. Because I wasn't part of their audience anymore. 3 nights later, I walked through my apartment and realized the air felt lighter. Like I wasn't carrying receipts in my lungs. I sat down, opened the spreadsheet, and added something I never thought to write before. Final transaction, truth delivered. I stared at the cell for a long time. Then I closed the file. And for once, I didn't save a backup. 3 weeks after the party, my father stood on my doorstep. Unannounced. No tie. No swagger. Just a man in a coat too nice for the weather, holding a silence that couldn't quite disguise the panic. Daniel, he said like it was a word he was trying to remember how to say. I didn't invite him in. I stepped out. Let the door click shut behind me. Winter dusk painted the sidewalk in long blue shadows. He shoved his hands into his coat pockets. We need to talk. We are, I said. Standing works. He swallowed. This thing with the board, this situation, it's gotten out of hand. You're right, I said. It started with a story. And now it's stuck on facts. I never meant for it to hurt you like that, he said. You know how I speak when I'm on stage. It's just part of the performance. I nodded slowly. You performed. I lived it. He stiffened, then tried again. You always had a way with details. Always took everything so literally. No, I said, stepping closer. I just stopped pretending literal was a bad word when it holds people accountable. He went quiet. Then he pulled something from his coat. The watch. My grandfather's. He held it out like a peace offering. I thought maybe you'd want this back. I gave it to you, I said. As a reminder. Not a souvenir. He didn't retract his hand. It's yours. No, I said. It was always yours. You just forgot what things cost when someone else paid. The watch trembled slightly. He put it back in his pocket like it burned. Do you think you've won? He asked suddenly, voice tight. I blinked. This wasn't a contest. That's the problem, Dad. You raised everything like it was. He started pacing. You humiliated me. My colleagues, my friends, do you know what they think of me now? I know what I think of me now, I said. And for once, it's not small. He looked up. What do you want from me, Daniel? An apology? A public statement? I don't want anything, I said. Because what I needed was never an apology. It was a father. And that offer expired. His face fell like I'd struck him. I hadn't. I just told the truth. I miss my son, he said. I miss a version of you that maybe never existed, I replied. We stood in silence while the wind stirred wrappers down the curb like ghosts. I'd like to rebuild, he said. Start with the people you actually hurt, I said. Nina is trying to stand up without standing in your shadow. Let her. Support her without calling it strategy. And us? He asked. I looked at him carefully. A man who built a career on stagecraft. Who mistook loyalty for silence and generosity for a blank check. There is no us right now, I said. There's a you. And a me. And a boundary in between. He nodded like he understood. But his eyes still searched for the applause that wasn't coming. He left quietly. That night I texted Nina. He stopped by. We talked. She replied. How did it go? Honestly, I typed. It felt like closing a tab I left open for years. She sent back a heart. Then a second one. Dinner this weekend? I'm bringing the curry. You bring your weird spreadsheet-free self. Deal. The next morning, I opened a new file. No tabs, no formulas. Just a blank page titled Rules for Staying Whole. I wrote. I don't fund guilt. I don't silence myself to keep the peace. I don't exchange my value for proximity. I don't stay in rooms where I'm the setup to someone else's punchline. I saved it. Printed it. Folded it into my wallet behind the ID I hadn't updated in 10 years. That night, I made dinner in silence. Not the kind I used to survive in, but the kind you build a life in. And for the first time, I wasn't anyone's biggest disappointment. I was my own beginning.